My name is Terasina, born and raised in Southern California. Grew up with both parents until about the age of 8. Both my parents were alcoholics. And my dad remarried. My mom got a boyfriend who was a lot younger. Her boyfriend there was always like cocaine and marijuana and stuff around. I wasn't really, knowledgeable of that stuff, but it was always around me. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. So being that I'm an only child, I started getting in trouble a lot at school. My mom didn't know how to handle a lot of that stuff. So my mom's only reaction was, you have to leave. You have to, leave the house. So because I didn't live with my parents, so that's a little bit of the background of it. I was already in the system and ran away from the foster homes, and the system didn't even know what to do with me. Because I had this feeling of abandonment and the feeling of just wanting to have a family maybe, or just to feel loved, the first response I had was the street gangs where I lived in California. They made life seem good. We'll take care of you. We'll never, stuff is easy. But along goes with the street gangs goes drugs. There's a lot of things as a female you have to do in initiation with gangs. So you become part of their property. So at about age 12, I was already introduced to methamphetamine, PCP, and I was a full-blown addict already. I had a couple friends, girls who were also involved in the gang as well as me. I can go stay at their house sometimes and shower and stuff like that, but I always ended up back out there. It got to the point to where it was like what you call the people who you thought were going to protect you were abusing you and raping you and pawning you off on people, and you really have no other choice because you feel like you owe them your life. That's how my teenage years ended up until I was about 15, 16 years old. I ended up getting pregnant. I tried to leave and tried to get out of there, but it didn't really work. I was still living in a car and I had no idea how to be a mother. So I tried to raise this kid for about a year, but I lived in cars, I lived on the streets, place to place, and custody of my daughter was removed from me. So from then, I just went back to what I knew, and that was the neighborhood, that was the gang, where I thought I felt acceptance, but it got really out of control when I went back. I was high on PCP and I was alone in an abandoned house. I was just trying to sleep because I had nowhere to go. And at least about 15 of the guys who I called my homeboys or whatever you want to call them, it was just one of the worst nights in my life that I ever experienced. It was just really hard to understand that people I thought were supposed to protect me and look out for me were the ones they raped me numerous times, and I heard a conversation said, this is all you have. If you don't have us, you're nobody, you're nothing. So nobody's gonna believe you, nobody's gonna want you. The people who all I wanted was relationship, and all I wanted was acceptance. And the people who I had given, what I felt like most of my life had turned on me, were using me. And I was just in this terrible situation where I had no way to get out. They beat me, they held guns to me so many times and made me do things that I didn't want to do. And the only way I knew how to cope was by using the PCP and the methamphetamine. And when I had got incarcerated for the first time is when I got to get away from the gang. I ended up doing the time, but I ended up moving away. And that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do because I didn't know anybody, I had nowhere to go. But I ended up getting pregnant again. I thought by leaving the town and leaving the city, let me go be a mother and I can take care of this kid and make up for the time that I I threw away with my daughter. And I did good for a little bit. I got sober. I tried to stay sober, but I always found myself hanging around with the same people. So even though as far away as I moved from those people, I ended up finding the same ones, and I got myself in the same situations. I was hopeless. I was in and out of jail. I contemplated suicide numerous times, and I was always on the search for somebody to love me. I was always searching for somebody to care. And through that time of just feeling like I'll never forget one of the guys who was in my neighborhood. He told me that he's like, this is your life. You don't have nothing without us. You'll never be nothing. You need us. And once we're not here to help you, you're never gonna get any, you're not gonna be anybody, all this other stuff. And, making me play that over and over in my head, over and over again. That's kind of how I lived the rest of my life from that point on, was just feeling defeated. I mean, there was times that I would leave my son at home and not come home for 3 or 4 days because I was stuck on the streets, just doing whatever I had to do to, number one, supply this habit that I had formed that was just trying to fill this void because I just felt so lost in this world. When my son turned 16, he was removed from my custody because he didn't want to live with me. I had nowhere to take him anyway, but he said, Mom, I don't want to live with you anymore. Your life is out of control. You choose this life over me. And I started using intravenously. I became addicted to anything. I put myself in situations where I was started with prostitution. And I mean, I've been on both sides of it. I had a part of my life where I was recruiting women because I didn't want to be the one, but when that didn't work, I started being the one that was out there doing whatever I had to do to get the room and get the drugs and, just to try to fill this void. I learned a long time in life, you have to give something to get something. And I learned to manipulate, I learned to lie, I learned to steal, I learned to cheat to get what I wanted. As much as I tried to get ahead of that, I just fell into this part of just a self-defeated life. Jail to me was safer than being out on the streets and having to survive and having to look over my shoulder every day. And so I invited going to jail. I felt safe there because I had nothing else. At that point in my life, thinking I would never, ever live to see the next day. I had no idea whose car I'm getting into. I have no idea who these people are. And that's like a fear that only out there that drugs could take away from me. So when I was in the jail, they were like, well, what do you want to do? And the only thing that came to my mind was like, well, my hopes, I just want to get clean. But really, in reality, I was like, that's never going to happen. I've been doing this. I'm older, and I've been doing this program over and over and over, getting out of jail, want to get my life together, and it's hard. One thought that played through my head was, I'm gonna die just like everyone said I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die the addict. I'm gonna die the person who has nothing to show for their life. I'm gonna die the person who gave up her kids for drugs. I'm gonna die the person who didn't accomplish anything, no degrees, she'll be remembered as this. This is the person I'm gonna die as. Or I'm gonna die the person who made some really bad choices, did some really bad things, but has made a decision to get their life together. So when I stood there with those two choices, I was like, I have tried everything else. Let me just try to do this, one last time. This time I was told about a program called the Hoving Home, and I had got released out of jail early, and so I was frantic. Took me in, no money, no clothes. I didn't have anything to bring with me. I didn't have any family to pay anything for me, but they brought me in, and the first thing I remember when I walked through the doors, I saw my name on the board. And for life, like I said, the one thing that I always cherished was to be accepted and to be part of something and to be loved by someone and feel part of. When I saw my name on the board, I was blown away. Like, they really want me here. They're accepting me here. They're welcoming. I was never welcomed anywhere. there's a lot of issues that I have to work on, and I learned in the program that I had a lot of unforgiveness towards my parents and towards the trauma for the things that happened to me that I'm working on, and that's why I turned to drugs at such a young age. And I'm just grateful that every single day is a new lesson of something that is going to help me be productive in my life. And from there, I completed the program in 2016, and then I knew that outside of working with other women, my life would be meaningless. I knew that this is what God had called me to do, is to share my experiences and to share what I know with other women so that I can be used by Him to help the girl who thought the same thing I did back when she was 13 or 14 years old. I'm not in fear of people anymore. I'm not in fear of, I know that I'm learning who I am, that I'm not gonna ever be nothing. I'm learning that I am loved, I'm accepted, and I don't have to give to receive. And that's a lie that has kept me in bondage for so long, is people always want something from you. And in 2017, I was hired to work here. And that's like the dream and the job of a lifetime, is to watch and learn at the same time the same things I went through, and watch the work and the healing that takes place. And it just continues to encourage me every day that it is a small part in the big war that's going on, but it is something. As for my son, there's a lot of damage I did, and I still stand here today faithfully knowing that eventually, God, when it's His time, that relationship, he's 21, he's gonna be 22 now, and I haven't seen him since the last time I saw him. I was behind a glass wall in a jail with a phone telling him I was gonna change, and I never did. So I know he's angry, but I know God he likes to restore, and when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing for Him, He takes care of that stuff. So, I have so much hope today. I don't feel defeated. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel abandoned anymore. And those are the things that just, it just keeps me going every single day, to be able to instill that in other women. It's a journey every day, and this is the best place to heal from that and to learn that. If I would have known somebody loved me and believed that, I probably would have changed my life. So someone's praying for you. Someone wants to help you. There is hope.